You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Let us begin. You know, I really need to make that cut off more smoothly. It's not a smooth transition to the live show. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the JD Rucker Show. We had a good day. We really did. You know, it started off very poorly, I'll admit. We're going to be talking about the treacherous, potentially evil Coney Barrett, the Supreme Court justice who decided, you know what? I'm just going to abandon the Constitution today and charge American taxpayers billions of dollars because that's what bad people do. I don't know what her justification was. I don't know if she is compromised. That's the question that I asked earlier today. We are going to be doing a slightly different format. I know it seems like it's changing all the time, but we're trying to get it perfect. Look, this is actually success. I shouldn't say attempt. We're doing it. We're in the middle of it. It's working. We're using Rumble Studios the way that we have wanted to for a long time. I am going to get better at it every day. That I can promise you. And by the time I'm actually really good at it, I'm sure we'll have a producer hired, and then all of a sudden, my expertise will no longer be necessary. And praise God when that happens, because I don't want to be on both sides of the camera. I really, I don't do a great job at it. I've got two different programs, two different screens, technically three screens going. We've got all this stuff happening, and I think it takes away from the show. I really do. I think that if all I had to do was focus on the stories and not have to worry about the technology, that I would actually be even sharper. Thankfully, I'm already pretty sharp, so I can handle it for now. We'll see how it goes. Part of the good news that we had going today, let me make sure. I might have messed this up. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, good. Part of the good news that happened today, we'll start with the good stuff before we get into a couple of the bad things. But there was an unexpected reversal. I did not see this coming, and I'm so happy that it did. For background, President Trump fired somebody, and an Obama judge unfired them, a very famous Obama judge. We'll get to her in a minute. But then now the fired and unfired is now refired, and that is a good thing. According to Red State Strife over there, Biden official who Trump fired and was reinstated by an Obama judge has been fired again. We'll see how far it goes. The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals has allowed President Trump to refire special counsel Hampton Dellinger, pending the disposition of Dellinger's lawsuit for reinstatement. This is a very important decision, as it overturns the order by District Court Judge Amy Berman Jackson. Another very evil, I would say probably more evil than Coney Barrett. At least the Supreme Court Amy is right some of the time. The District Court Amy is wrong every single time, including this time. Overturns the order by District Court Judge Amy Berman Jackson, forcing the Trump administration to reinstate Dellinger. The backstory is that Dellinger, according to the statute, can only be removed from office for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. Trump fired Dellinger using a recent Supreme Court precedent as the rationale. Shortly after being reinstated, Dellinger began waging guerrilla warfare against Trump's dismissal of probationary federal employees by pushing their cases to the Merit System Protection Board. The Trump administration appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court sent the case to the D.C. Circuit for review without taking any action, and a 3-judge panel ruled on that tonight. The 2-page ruling Wednesday from 3 judges on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals contained no detailed explanation, but it said lawyers for the Trump administration had met the legal standard to lift an injunction that U.S. District Judge Amy Berman Jackson had issued on Saturday. This comes from the D.C. Court of Appeals, which is as leftist as it gets. Okay. That's why it was such a surprise. I really thought that this was going to have to be forced, basically pushed all the way up to the Supreme Court, and we don't know what's going to happen there because of the aforementioned Amy Coney Barrett, as well as possibly Neil Gorsuch, possibly Brett Kavanaugh, the three Trump appointees, unfortunately, who are all, I would say, they're right about 60% of the time, maybe 70, and it seems as if they almost take turns being wrong about a particular issue. And of course, you've got Chief Justice Roberts, who is a Bush appointee. He's wrong only when it's important to be wrong. If it's not important, he'll be right. Of course, the exception would be Roe v. Wade, but that's a discussion for another day. Wait, no, he actually voted. I forgot now. Did he vote against? I don't recall. All I know is that we got it through, so that's good. It's done. It's over. Roe v. Wade is gone. Now we can focus on the real battle over abortion, which is a cultural battle, and that's something that I've discussed many times. Thank you. Oh, I keep forgetting. I've got to keep watching the live chat because occasionally we will get chats in. I don't get a ton of them. I wish I would get more because I would love to interact with you all much more often. But it's funny. Yesterday I got a lot of chats anytime there was no volume. Nobody has commentary. Or very few times do people have commentary for me. They just want to say, hey, dude, your technology sucks. And I get that. I understand. Oh my gosh, my volume is so low. There we go. Is that better? Is that better or worse? Better or worse? Oh, it keeps going down. That's what it is. Ah, okay. So this is another technology thing that I got to figure out with. It just keeps going down. Got to figure that out. If I am too low, I apologize dramatically and greatly and profusely up front because this should not be so bad, but apparently it is. Can you guys hear me? Somebody sound off in chat. Every time I try to reset it, it just takes it right back up and pushes my volume back down. Can you hear me? Will it stay there or is it going to go back down? We will see. That's unfortunate. My gosh, I thought I had this figured out. And now, for whatever reason, it's no longer staying where it's supposed to stay. Let me see if I can change that in the settings real quick. Apologies for my lack of appropriate professionalism. There we go. Hopefully, I think I've got it. Man, if I have to reset this every time, that's really going to suck. How's my sound? You guys tell me. Am Again, this is the new format. I will be recording individual segments throughout the day, segments as they come. And when I say new format, I've been doing that to some extent the entire time. I'm just going to be doing it more and more and more as we go along because it seems to be, at least from what I can tell, it seems to be the best way to make sure that we do get all of the stories in as appropriately as possible. So let's talk about Amy Coney Barrett. Is Justice Amy Coney Barrett compromised? It's a serious question. I'm not making a statement here. I don't have any evidence. It just feels like she seems to be the one who gets the call whenever there's an important, especially if it has to do with any of the three quote unquote major players within the world governance, whether it's the uniparty swamp, the deep state, or the globalist elite cabal. The Supreme Court seems to always find a way to rule against us. It's not 100%. We have had some great rulings. I don't want to downplay those, but it seems as if when one's important, such as the decision on Wednesday to force the Trump administration to continue to pay wasteful aid through USAID to foreign powers, foreign entities, foreign groups, well, she, of course, got the call, I think. I don't know that for sure. Maybe she's just a bleeding heart leftist that we didn't realize it until it was too late. Maybe she is she's just stupid. I actually posed that question on X. Is she compromised or is she stupid? And it was about 50-50. Okay, it wasn't scientific, but there was, a few dozen replies, and about half said that she was stupid, about half said that she was compromised, and a few said that she's both. So very few people said that she's neither. Very few people, at least on my X following, which is, I'm sure you could imagine, is pretty darn conservative. The vast majority of people who replied did give an affirmative in one direction or the other. So I ask you, my audience, what do you guys think? Is she compromised? Is she stupid? Is she a bleeding heart leftist who just happens to be pro-life? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it does seem like they take turns. When I'm referring to they, we already know Chief Justice John Roberts, he will be a leftist whenever he can be, or whenever it's necessary for him to be. He's supposedly a Republican. Yeah. Yeah, but of course he's a George W. Bush Republican, which doesn't mean much in today's world. But the three justices that President Trump put forth, Barrett, and of course Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh, they seem to, like I said, it feels like they take turns, with Amy Coney Barrett taking the lion's share of the I guess you could say, anti-American rulings. So, my question to you is this. Considering that this is, when you look at Alito's dissent, he was absolutely shocked. He couldn't believe it. And I don't blame him. I can't believe it. This is a no-brainer to me. It should have been 6-3. This should have been one of those instances where John Roberts is like, well, I'd like to support the ruling by Joe Biden's judge, but I just can't. It's just a bridge too far. And yet he did, of course. And then Amy Coney Barrett betrayed us as well. So my question to you, is she compromised? Is she stupid? Is she a closet leftist? What's the deal? Why did she betray the United States of America with her ruling once again? There we go. There you have it. I'm trying, by the way, to get this whole technology thing mastered. We may end up having to just go back to the good old OBS, because it's, as much as I love Rumble, and I love Rumble. I think Rumble is a great platform they offer us. They're the best thing to come out of Canada since maple syrup, and hopefully they're not going to be harmed in any way by these tariffs. I don't know what they're importing or exporting, other than they're exporting truth bombs on the JD Rucker Show. We have, I would say, an opportunity here, because knowing that Amy Coney Barrett is possibly compromised, we can use that as I guess you could say a way to coax President Trump into focusing more on what I would consider to be originalists. It's not so much about left versus right when it comes to the Supreme Court. At least it shouldn't be. Okay, it is for now, but in reality, what we want originalists. We want people who are going to read the Constitution and the amendments and make decisions based upon what was the original intent. Because we are not living in an age where there's this grander wisdom. Okay, if you go back to the 18th century or even the early 19th century, they didn't have any challenges or questions or problems with whether or not a man was a man or a woman was a woman. They didn't worry about certain aspects of, for example, faith. This wasn't something where, yes, I know there were holy wars. Don't get me started on that. But at least the confusion level was minimal. It seems today that there is so much confusion, even amongst Republicans, even amongst conservatives. We are confused people, which is why I do lean on our founding fathers, people of old, when it comes to understanding the appropriate way this nation should be run. Now, there are obviously changes that have been made that needed to be made pertaining to, for example, slavery. But when we look at, for example, the separation of powers, between the states, between the states and the federal government, we have obliterated those. Okay, I mean, we're so far gone from the original intent of a full blown constitutional republic. This is why they don't get very much pushback when they say we're a democracy. We're a democracy. We're not a democracy. We've never been a democracy. So that notion alone should be enough to make us, hopefully, Lord willing, wake up. And it's starting to happen. It is starting to happen slowly but surely, not just through Doge, but also through other aspects of the Trump administration. This story just came out tonight. Breaking. It's breaking a couple hours ago, but still breaking for us now. Nick Sortor, independent journalist, says President Trump is expected to issue an executive order as soon as Thursday aimed at abolishing the Department of Education. We're finally going to send education back to the states where it belongs. Per the Wall Street Journal, the order will direct Secretary McMahon to take all necessary steps to facilitate the closure of the Education Department based on the maximum extent appropriate and permitted by law. Another promise being kept. Now, for those who don't know, it's funny because I wanted to bring this up. There was this viral video. This came out probably 3 or 4 days ago, and I was going to include it on the show. I decided not to because there's just too much editing to be done because of just unhinged cursing, right? But with that said, the person who was doing the viral rant was talking about the constitutional right to education, and it's like there is not just education, to free education, and I'm like, there is no constitutional right to education, let alone free education. That is not in the Constitution anywhere. And when people say, you have to look back in the past, the Department of Education has been such a benefit for us for centuries. I'm just like, oh my gosh. The Department of Education was formed by Jimmy Carter in 1979. And it was formed and elevated to a cabinet role because they wanted to basically get around the 10th Amendment. They wanted to exert more federal control over the states as it pertains to education. And the results have been nothing short of disastrous. You cannot show me a single instance where it's like, oh my gosh, it is so good, such a great thing that we have the Department of Education at the federal level. Because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have this, or this. Public education in the United States of America has become a debacle. And it's not just because of wokeness. It's because of the guidance of a federal bureaucracy that cannot possibly set nationwide guidelines for a country that is so diverse. Okay, what the education system needs in Omaha, Nebraska is going to be completely different from what it needs in Jacksonville, Florida, which will be completely different from what's necessary in Providence, Rhode Island, or rural Montana, or anywhere else. You have to try to bring it down as close as possible to the individual. Okay, now this is going to send, as Nick Sortor noted, this is going to send a lot of the power back to the states, and that's great. That's an improvement. But I would much rather see the power of education in the hands of who? Yes, the parents. And how can the parents have the power over education? Through local school boards. That should be, in other words, we should be flipping it completely over. The Department of Education's at the state level, departments of education at the state level should be the bottom, okay? They should give mild guidelines. They should basically be searching for corruption or, failing districts, stuff like that. They should be working on appropriations of money and maybe even laying out ways for districts to be able to generate their own revenue. That would be great. But the actual decision making when it comes to the education should come through the parents via the local school boards. If you were to do that, if you were to basically turn it into what it should be, which is, I hate to put it like this because it's going to make it sound a little bit off, but basically turn it into a competition. Make school districts work for and fight for students, there was a time when the quality of a school district was arguably the most important aspect of where somebody would move. Okay, when I was a child, that was the top consideration. When my parents um, moved to a different state, okay, they were looking. They had lots of choices. There were lots of options, places they could live, and they researched thoroughly. This is before the internet, obviously. They researched thoroughly as best they could to find out where the best school districts were for their children, and that's why we ended up moving. Okay, and we did it again later. Before I was even out of high school, they did it again. They looked for where are the best school districts for our kids. Now, that type of competition, I guess you could say, is hampered by every level of bureaucracy, starting from the top and working its way down. Getting rid of the Department of Education is a tremendous move. I just hope that at some states will decide, you know what, let's at least tone back and maybe not abolish the state departments of education, but at least pull them back, pull back their power, and try to put more of the decision making in the hands of the school districts on behalf of the parents and the students themselves. Because just as I said, different cities, different areas of the country will have different needs. So too will different individual school districts have different needs from school districts that are sometimes right next door. We have to treat this on a very localized level. Localization is, of course, I would say the most important thing that we can do. It's one of my favorite aspects of Doge. It's not an intention of Doge. They're searching for waste, but in their quest to find waste and fraud and corruption, I think that they're going to discover that there's a whole lot of need to push towards localization of many aspects of not just government, but also commerce, education, pretty much every aspect of life. We should, as a nation, be learning how to localize as much as possible. And I always tell people, look, you want to be a survivalist, you want to be a prepper. If you've got the resources, great. Go get you a homestead bunker in North Dakota, okay? But for the rest of us who might not have the resources to be able to build our little dream bunkers, we have to live in the communities that we're in. We have to operate in these communities. And the best way for us to be as prepared as possible, it's not just about having a garden and raising chickens and having plenty of ammo. Okay. It's about making sure that you have local connections, making sure that you know the farmers, the ranchers, know the shops, the places where you can get pretty much anything. We have headed in the opposite direction as a nation. And we've gone, well, everything's about Amazon now, or everything's about, hey, I can just go down to Walmart, or I can order through whatever and get whatever I want from anywhere in the world, pretty much, and have it delivered via drone to my front door in like a day, sometimes hours. I get it. That's very convenient. But it weakens us as a nation. It really, truly does. Speaking of local, I do have a local, if you're in Texas, a local coffee company that I like to drink their coffee. And it's not just because it's by far the best coffee I've ever had in my entire life. It's also because this particular company is a Christian company that does tremendous work outside of the coffee industry itself. Now, within the coffee industry, they go around, these guys, they go around and they go to different churches, especially in Texas. They show them how to improve their coffee service. Their theory, which I agree with, is that if a church, especially small local churches, if they have a really good coffee service, they're going to get more people to come to that church. People are going to be excited. Ooh, I got to get to church early today. I love their coffee. And harkens back to the old commercials in the 60s. Jim never gets a second cup of coffee when I'm making it. Yeah, well, that church coffee is really good. So you can check it out and you can taste what I believe to be, again, the best coffee I've ever had. Seriously, not just doing that because they're a sponsor. To be clear, these guys have been a sponsor for quite a while. I haven't actually been paid by them yet because I haven't met the threshold, because I don't make much off the coffee. I make literally a buck or two off a bag. Okay. And we haven't sold a ton of bags. but I still promote them because the company is awesome. And more importantly, to me at least, the coffee is awesome. You can go to jdrucker.com/coffee, jdrucker.com/coffee. I don't think I've got a discount code or anything, but you don't need it. Pay double because it is really that good. So other crazy things that happened today, we had, I mentioned, I did the segment on Coney Barrett. There was another story that really chapped my khakis. And I don't even need to set it up. I'm just going to play it because you'll understand exactly why I am so upset by this. California bill would close the loopholes for buying sex from 16 or 17-year-old children. Now, of course, if you're not a sicko, and if you have a single brain cell, and you are an American citizen who's still proud of being an American citizen, you're probably wondering, why in the world are there loopholes in the state of California that allow you to buy sex from 16 or 17-year-olds? They are, of course, children. Yes, that is a good question, but it may be even worse to find out, at least I found this out and I was very disgusted by it, that up until last year, those loopholes existed for even younger children. I know, right? It's just, how can such things be in the United States of America in 2024, let alone 2025? But here we are. Yes, California, the sex laws here are more aligned with like Afghanistan or the Vatican or places where child sex is a little bit more acceptable. Well, they are trying to make changes, but it's incremental and it's just not good enough. But we'll take what we can get sometimes out here in California. This article comes from Kenneth Schrupp over at thecentersquare.com. A bipartisan coalition of California lawmakers has introduced a bill to strengthen penalties, including potential felonies, for purchasing sex from 16 and 17-year-old children. The legislation would also make loitering to purchase prostitution a misdemeanor with a $1,000 fine. Introduced by Assemblywoman Maggie Krell, who's a Democrat from Sacramento, and State Senator Shannon Grove from Bakersfield, a Republican who introduced the original bill last year. Assembly Bill 379 would close the loopholes left open by forced amendments to Grove's earlier legislation on the purchase of sex from children. So what happened was this. Last year, Groves introduced a bill that would say, hey, you know what? Let's make it a felony. And for people, adults, to buy sex from children, because after all, it's 2024 and that's just not acceptable. Shouldn't be acceptable anymore. Should never have been acceptable in the first place. Democrats, who control the government here in California, they objected to the idea of stopping the sale of child sex. So they said, we'll let your bill go through, but only if you add an amendment to it that allows other people, not us, totally not us, but allows other people to still buy sex from older teens, like 16 or 17, we'll say. That way, if they get caught doing that, it's only going to be a misdemeanor and maybe a fine. That's literally what happened. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making any of that up. They forced an amendment to this bill that would have criminalized, finally, purchasing sex from children. They added the little clause in the bill that made it okay. It's just a little misdemeanor as long as the victims were 16 or 17 years old. You could buy sex from them and not have to worry about going to jail or registering as a sex offender or paying a $25,000 fine or anything like that. Well, now they're trying to correct it because, again, things have changed. This is a better place, I would say. The United States of America, our core values are starting to come back thanks to the 2024 election. Even out here in California, it is becoming, more acceptable to oppose such evils as child sex. Back to the article. Last year, Democrats forced the amendment to Grove's Senate Bill 1414, which originally would have which would have made attempted or successful solicitation of sex with a minor for money a felony with a prison sentence ranging from 2 to 4 years, a fine not exceeding $25,000, and registration as a sex offender. I, of course, would have rather anybody caught doing that get 20 years. major fine, and of course, still registration as a sex offender. Apologies, folks. I really do have to get this technology thing situated better. I'm gonna have to go back. I thought I had it nailed. It's gonna take some more practice. Unfortunately, this is the part that bugs me is that you can only practice really on the studio, on through Rumble Studio. You can only practice live. They don't give you a way that you can, set it all up and get going. You have to take it live and then see how it goes. Sorry, I'm complaining. I shouldn't complain. This is actually a blessing for me to be able to do this. So the fact that I can't square away the technology appropriately, it's almost certainly a me problem because everybody else can do it. I mean, I see other people that are in the same situation as I am that have no producer, but they're trying to do their show on a daily basis, and they're able to accomplish it. Just because I have certain needs or whatever makes it a little bit more challenging. But we're gonna power through it. I'm gonna stop whining like a little baby and just do my show. With that said, let's talk about shutdown. So I want to see a government shutdown. Of course, I want to blame the Democrats for it. That'd be nice. But even if we can't, because legacy media, of course, is going to blame President Trump and Elon Musk and Mike Johnson and John Thune and everybody else, and Democrats will, oh, we have no control. How can we shut down the government? Yeah, it is what it is. President Trump has a plan, though. He's got a plan to keep the government going, and it's a pretty good one. This comes to us according to the rightscoop.com. President Trump announces how Republicans plan to avoid government shutdown next week. President Trump just announced how he and Republicans in the House and Senate plan to avoid the government shutdown next week in order to give them time to work on their budget resolution. Specifically, Trump said that they are working on a continuing resolution to fund the government through September of this year. Government funding runs out next week, and Democrats are threatening to shut down the government. But I am working with the Great House Republicans on a CR to fund the government until September to give us some needed time to work on our agenda. Conservatives will love this bill. And that's probably not true, by the way. But he's pitching it. Conservatives will love this bill because it sets us up to cut taxes and spending in reconciliation, all while effectively freezing spending this year and allowing us to continue our work to make America great again. Very important. Let's get this bill done. Yes, I know. They write another continuing resolution, but if it leads them to a budget resolution, which they do need time to hash out, then I guess it's worth it. Plus, President Trump has already demonstrated that he's willing to significantly cut spending and the size of government. I think he's earned some credit on this one. Fine. I will echo that sentiment. No, I can't. I just can't do it. Another CR, another kick the can down the road. Will it buy us time? Sure. But we always are buying time. That seems to be just the ongoing way that the Washington, D.C. operates. And it's got to stop at some point. And we always say, we'll have to stop it next time. And then when we don't stop it, we say, well, we'll have to stop it next time. And it's a continuous cycle that has lasted for years now. So I want to see the government shut down. I want to see that they're actually able to put forth a legal and appropriate budget, one that cuts dramatically, one that funds the government in the most minimal way possible. And yes, will that hurt to some extent the Trump administration's reputation with legacy media? Sure. Will it hurt some of the House and Senate members? Will it be used against them in the election next year? Possibly. Even though I would argue that if we look back at past shutdowns, it hasn't really affected anybody. Okay, we do live in a very short news cycle and short memory span when it comes to elections. People seem to, I don't know, forget things that happened previous year. It's always about what's happening today, and that's where how they decide they're going to vote. So I would argue that any repercussions electorally wouldn't necessarily come back to bite anybody in 2026. So yeah, I'm going to go against Trump on this one. And I'm going to say I do hope that they shut it down and keep it shut down until they're able to put forth an actual real government funding plan with an appropriate budget. Might be unpopular. I'm sure it is. There's probably people that would hate me for it, especially if it does come true. But I'm okay with that because we just keep doing it. And it might as well stop it now. Crazier things have happened since President Trump has come into office. Vast majority of those things have been good. I think we've earned a little bit of pain tolerance, because that's really what it comes down to. I mean, what is shutting down the government? It's not something catastrophic. It's about pain tolerance. Who's going to blink? Who can play chicken? Who's going to not like the pain they're feeling from their constituents? Who's going to get the blame? Is it Democrats? Is it Republicans? Is it individuals? Is it a caucus? Is it the president? Is it the House? Is it the Senate? Who's to blame? And we can play those games all day. And they really are just games, because, again, vast majority of Americans, if you ask them to define what is a continuing resolution, they will have no idea anyway. Okay? All they care about, and I'm not talking about President Trump. I think he really does care a lot about, he wants this to not be a distraction from the great things that he and his team are doing. I get it. Okay. I don't blame President Trump for wanting to just get this done, push it off till September. We'll deal with it then. In the meantime, let's just keep trying to make America great again. I don't disagree with that sentiment. But again, enough is enough. We should have stopped doing these can-kicking exercises years ago. But since we haven't, now's the time. I'm all for shutting down the government, even if it could do a little bit of harm. It wouldn't do massive harm, to be clear. Okay? It really wouldn't, especially if it's a short shutdown. It would send a message, though, that hey, Democrats, rhinos, whoever you want to blame the good members of Congress. I don't care. Blame somebody. But none of it's going to have a lasting effect. So I would say shut it down. But then again, I'm not in Washington, D.C. Oh, let's see what else we got going today. Oh, I do want to get to that story, but I'm going to wait until I'm going to play one more clip before I get to this story, because that's a fun story, and I don't know how long that one's going to take. So I have to get these clips out of the way. So let me go ahead and play this clip. This is probably, I would say, my favorite one of the day, and I have a few. But this particular one, when I was putting this out there, it did get a lot of good traction. A lot of people liked it. And I think it tells a very important story, because Doge, executive orders are very feeble. They really are. As far as any government action, despite the fact that the president of the United States is the most powerful person in the world, the orders from the president of the United States are the least powerful government action that the federal government can take. Legislation, Supreme Court, court rulings, these all have more staying power than an executive order, which is fleeting in many cases, and very, very susceptible to lawfare, as we're learning. But what if we could codify some of the Doge cuts, a lot of the Doge cuts, maybe most of the Doge cuts? Then we got something to work with. And Rand Paul met with Elon Musk today to see if they could do just that. Rand Paul and other senators pitched Elon Musk on the idea of essentially codifying many of Doge's cuts, and Elon Musk was reportedly elated by the concept. Now, this isn't anything new. This has been tried before. It's been tried during the last Trump administration. They tried to get what's called a rescission package, which is to basically take money that's already been been set aside by Congress. It's already been approved legislatively to be spent on this or that or whatever, and claw it back, rescind it, rescind the spending. Now, the key, I'll get to the key here in a second, but it didn't work during the last Trump administration. They had a couple of senators who were objecting, and we didn't have the ability to withstand a couple of senators objecting. Now, I would imagine there will be more senators objecting this time, because last time they were just trying to rescind $15 billion. This time they're talking about rescinding up to $500 billion. But we'll see. We will see. Get your prayers ready and get your phones ready, because we might have to be praying for discernment in Washington, D.C., honesty, maybe a little bit of humility, but we will also need to hop on the phones, call the various senators who might attempt to derail this idea. But the story itself comes from Steph W. Kite over at Axios.com. Left-leaning Axios, I get it, but this is a good report of the news itself. It says Rand Paul pitches Elon Musk on plan to slash spending, a legislative plan. Now, of course, this comes on a day, let me preface this a bit. This comes on a day where we did get some bad Doge news. Okay, the Supreme Court, which I think a lot of us, I know I did, expected them to side with, the Constitution and the American people. I know, crazy to think that Amy Coney Barrett would be a traitor to the taxpayers of the United States of America, but it is what it is, and that really sent shockwaves. Not just because she forced the government to pay USAID foreign aid funding of around $2 billion, but also because this bodes ill for future similar lawsuits, similar judgments that we're expecting to come from the Supreme Court in the future as it pertains to Doge. Well, if we can get a legislative solution, that is more powerful. See, I don't know if, I'm not sure most of you realize it, but perhaps some other people don't realize that when it comes to, we have 3 co-equal branches of government, but when it comes to the power of their decisions, the Supreme Court's power is the highest. The Supreme Court, their rulings, generally speaking, have more clout than anything else. This is why, for example, Roe v. Wade was a plague on American society for 5 decades. Okay? Well, second would be codifying it, turning it into law, legislation, the legislative branch, Congress, Senate, Capitol Hill. That's where when you can write laws and get them passed and get them signed, when you can codify a particular intention, we'll say, then that is very powerful as well. It's still subject to lawsuits. It's still subject to certain potential roadblocks, but nothing compared to the weakest form of government engagement, which is the executive order from the executive branch. The president sounds great because he's the most powerful man in the world, right? So if the president says it, that should have weight, except it really doesn't. It's temporary, generally speaking. Executive orders last as long as that president. And if the opposition party takes over the White House, they generally just write a bunch of executive orders that get rid of the previous executive orders. We see it every 4 to 8 years, generally speaking. So occasionally every 12 years. But whatever. Point is that executive orders are weak. Plus, as we're learning right now in real time, they're also very vulnerable to the judiciary. Even a low-level federal judge in Connecticut can upend the President of the United States' orders. That's ludicrous on every possible level, but it's what we've got. So this is why Elon Musk is so happy by the idea of let's get back to doging, but we'll doge through the Senate. Awesome. Elon Musk and Republican senators are eyeing a package to claw back tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars in federal spending after meeting in a closed-door lunch on Wednesday. Musk has been leading the charge on spending cuts from the White House. Some lawmakers want to make his actions more permanent by making them law, by codifying them. No decisions have been made, but there was some early general support for the idea being pushed by Senator Rand Paul after the lunch. An infamous deficit hawk, Paul pitched Elon Musk on a massive rescission package, remember those words, a massive rescission package during a lunch on Wednesday, he told reporters. Such a package would undo federal funding already approved by Congress. And that there is the biggest challenge. That's where a lot of the lawfare that's being waged against Doge and against the Trump administration is being done because, hey, funds have already been set aside by Congress. They're the ones that get to pick how much money is spent and where it's spent, not the president. Well, then let's get Congress to rescind the spending. Problem solved. And this is the key. This is the key, the most important part. The bill would also only require 51 votes to pass the Senate. No Democrats would be required. We would have room to lose 2 senators. 2 Republican senators could vote against it. And it could still pass. That's awesome. But that means that we still have to pray. We still have to fight the rhinos. We have to fight rhinos like, Mitch McConnell still. I know that you don't see or hear him much unless he's being wheeled around to make a vote. But he does still exist in our U.S. Senate, as does Lisa Murkowski, as does Susan Collins, as does Lindsey Graham. Oh, wait. Lindsey Graham exists, but maybe, just maybe. Let's see what they say about Lindsey Graham. But first, let's get to ones that will vote for it. Musk was elated at the idea, Senator Josh Hawley told reporters. I think he didn't realize it could be done at 51 senators only. I do think there is a genuine appetite to continue this work within the legislative branch, according to Senator Eric Schmidt, another good guy. And then here he is, Senator Lindsey Graham, Lindsey Rhino Graham, neocon Rhino Lindsey, the I'm not going to say it. Lindsey Graham said he backed Paul's plan. Lindsey Graham said he backed it. Awesome. So that's 1 rhino down, about 4 or 5 or 7 or 10 more to go. President Trump has looked at ways to get around the 1974 Impoundment Control Act, which limits the president's power to withhold funds without already appropriated by Congress. The U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday ruled against Trump, requiring roughly $1.9 billion in foreign aid via USAID still to be dispersed. This court does not look like it's warming toward the impoundment theory, according to Hawley. It's not a good sign for other actions Doge might want to take to cut spending without Congress. All right, fine. Then let's cut it through Congress. Let's make it permanent. Let's make it to where, you know what, the money hasn't been spent, and the money isn't going to be spent even after President Trump leaves office. If, God forbid, a Democrat were to be the next president, or even the president after that, or after that, or after that. Republicans attempted to roll back $15 billion in government spending with a rescission package during the first Trump administration, but it failed due to no votes from Senator Susan Collins, the ultimate rhino from Maine, and Senator Richard Burr, who, thank God, is gone. He was replaced by Ted Budd. So there were already 2 votes against rescinding $15 billion. Now we're talking about $500 billion. I would imagine that Susan Collins is still going to be a no. And we're also going to have to look at the aforementioned Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell, the uniparty swampsters who don't want to see President Trump succeed, who don't want to see Elon Musk succeed, and most importantly, who do not want to see the United States of America succeed. It's part of their uniparty swamp creed. It's like, thou shalt not do anything that can help Americans. I'm not a fan of Susan Collins, if you couldn't tell. Unfortunately, she is the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, which will play a key role in the rescission process. Thank you very much, John Thune, for making a horrible, 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 horrible choice there, rewarding Susan Collins. Give me a break. Give me a break. But hey, no, let's focus on the positives here. The positives are Rand Paul is going to lead the charge, as he almost always does when it comes to cutting and slashing and burning budgets. Okay? It's great. He will be supported by a majority of Republicans, but we need almost all of them. We need 51 out of 53, because I guarantee you, no Democrat, not even John Fetterman, is going to vote to rescind $500 billion. This maybe have to be done piecemeal. In other words, they may have to sneak it in. Might have to pick out some of the worst offenders and then divvy it up between 3 or 4 different rescinding packages, because use the most egregious spending, the ones that are easiest to pitch to people, put a little bit of that, sprinkle those in with multiple packages? I don't know. I don't know what the best way to do it. Maybe, I mean, President Trump, I can assure you, and Rand Paul for that matter, and Elon Musk for that matter, would much rather see just one big, beautiful bill that rescinds $500 billion in one fell swoop. Done. That's what they want. And that's what I would want if I thought that they were possible. And it may be. We'll see. We'll see. This is where, if Rand Paul or Ron Johnson or Ted Cruz or Mike Lee or Josh Hawley or Eric Schmidt or any of those guys, if they have any favors they can call in with Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, and let's just assume that Mitch McConnell's a lost cause. So we got to get Collins and Murkowski and maybe a few other naysayers on board. It's time to call in some favors, maybe do some negotiating up front, because we need this. This is bigger, potentially, and more impactful for sure than anything Doge could do through executive orders. If we can just undo the spending that Congress has already committed us to, if we could undo a good chunk of that, and $500 billion, that's a good chunk. It's not as I would love for it to be more. Hey, don't forget, cut 95% of the U.S. government, and that will be a start for me. But hey, I realize that's a pipe dream. But this is not. This is real. This is potential. We could actually see this happen. And like I was telling you, I had my interview earlier with my good friend Alex Newman. We were talking about crazy things happening. I don't discount anything anymore. Things that I would have thought were absolutely impossible are already happening, like 6 weeks into the Trump administration. So why should we fear anything? I hope you don't take that as some biblical reference to fear nothing because of Trump. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm saying is that we seem to have certain degrees of momentum, certain degrees of righteous passion on our side right now. Let's take advantage of it. Let's shoot for the moon on a bunch of stuff. This is it. This is the big one. I mean, this could actually single-handedly, in one fell swoop, this could be a major step towards saving our country from the eventual collapse that we're going to be facing here very, very soon. It's not like, oh my God, I hate it when people say, we've got to do it to save our grandchildren. No, our grandchildren are never going to see anything that we do because we're not going to continue to be a nation for more than 4 or 5 more years if we don't fix this now. Stop talking about grandchildren. Talk about today, right now. This is where the problem is. It's not about, we're hurting future generations. Yeah, that's true, but that's like, when I hear people say that, it's sort of like saying, you're in the middle of the house and the house is burning down and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to cause my grandchildren to have to paint over this. It's like, no, that might be true, but the more pressing need is that you have to stop the fire or you'll die. And don't worry about the paint job. I'm not saying don't worry about our children or grandchildren. I'm saying that let's stop treating this as if it's something where the real problem is going to start with our children or grandchildren. The real problem is now. It's right staring us in the face. $36 trillion in debt, more being paid in interest than on the military. Let's get this done. Rescission package, $500 billion? Sounds like a good start to me. And there we go. Sounds like a good start to me. Well, what do we have going now? I want to get to this story because it is an important one, but I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to give it its just due, so I might save it for tomorrow. You know what? Let's go ahead. Let's do it. This comes to us from Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey via Libs of TikTok, and I would say it's there's a potential here. It's a story we need to keep our eye on because this could actually truly legitimately impact a lot of things going forward based upon rescinding things from the past. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey asked the DOJ to investigate whether Biden's cognitive mental decline allowed unelected officials to make decisions without his knowledge or approval. That would be a huge no-no. That would be against the Constitution, against the law, and it would retroactively remove many of the things that Joe Biden allegedly did. And what Andrew Bailey is saying is that he didn't do it. This wasn't Joe Biden who was putting out these executive orders. Now, to be clear, it's not like the president is sitting there all day, typing. He's not on his computer typing out executive orders. No, of course, he has his people do it. They tell him what's in it. He might read it. I think that President Trump probably reads a lot of them, if not all of them, maybe. I don't know. But then he decides, okay, so that one, when it gets here, I'll sign it. And then they have the ceremony and they talk about it. And then the press obliterates it or does whatever they do to try to downplay it. And we move on. Well, what Andrew Bailey is saying is that Joe Biden didn't know what he was signing. He wasn't aware. And he has a lot of evidence. There has been evidence, public evidence, that shows that this is the case. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson detailed a time when he was talking to Joe Biden about an executive order that he signed, and Joe Biden admitted to him, "I didn't even realize that that's what I was signing. I thought I was just signing some study for energy research and something or another." No, that's not what you were signing, Joe. What about all these pardons? What about all the other executive actions? Was Joe Biden even aware? Or were unelected aides and interns and maybe Dr. Taco Jill and Crackhead Hunter, maybe they were actually running the country? And if that's the case, I think all of us think that, right? I mean, I know I'm not alone to think that chances are Joe Biden really wasn't doing anything. He was being ushered around, told what to do, what to say, when to take a nap, when to eat ice cream, when to poop. That's, and we don't know how long that was going on. I would say it was probably going on for the majority of, if not the entirety of his term. Okay. I mean, because we were talking about his dementia before the election, before the 2020 election. Okay. My show, we were talking about, man, Joe has lost it. Joe is suffering from dementia. Joe cannot be president of the United States. Now, I'm glad that he was, because now we have Trump 2.0, which is far better than it would have been had Trump not had the 2020 election stolen. Then we wouldn't have what we have today. So it all works out. Praise God for that. His plan is so much better than ours. Always is. But now the question is this: can we, as a result of this lawsuit, or not, it's not a lawsuit, this is a request for investigation by the Department of Justice or someone else, and he makes that clear. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a pretty long letter. I think I've done a pretty good job of detailing everything that's in it. He's saying that Joe Biden wasn't really in charge. Joe Biden didn't know what he was doing. Joe Biden, as president of the United States, wasn't really acting as president of the United States, and therefore anything that he signed, especially in the latter days of his administration, his regime, they're null and void. All those pardons, including Anthony Fauci's pardon, Adam Schiff's pardon, all those pardons, nope, can't work. Hunter Biden's pardon, nope. No, if it can be determined, and we're getting into very murky legal territory, unprecedented legal territory here, but I think the case is pretty strong. I think Andrew Bailey is right. And for those who don't know him, Andrew Bailey is the Missouri Attorney General, is a firebrand. This is the guy that you want to be Attorney General everywhere, every state. I don't know if I'd want him to necessarily be the Attorney General of the United States of America. Nothing against him. There's a lot. Sometimes we always think that going up to the federal level is better. I would say that it's not necessarily better. Just as an example, real quick, and I'll get back to this, but just as an example, I don't know how much I would support Ron DeSantis as a president. Even, I'm not even talking about the 2024 run, going against Trump and blowing his political future on some stupid notion that he could actually beat Trump in a primary. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that let's say he didn't go. Let's say he endorsed Trump, didn't run, endorsed Trump, and now he's in Trump's good graces, and people are talking about it's either him or JD Vance for 2028, or maybe somebody else. I don't know. I think Steve Bannon is actually I think he came in second, I think, in the straw poll at CPAC. Not that that means anything, but point is that let's say that a President DeSantis were to come about. I don't know if I would like that. I think that his place is as Florida governor, and he's getting term limited out. So I guess we'll have Governor Byron Donalds, hopefully. Matt Gaetz has talked about running. Casey DeSantis has talked about running. But I think that DeSantis found his spot. Okay, he was a very good congressman. I thought he was very good. I think he was a slightly better governor, but he's also, it's hard to tell because he was a governor in a state with Republican supermajorities. That's kind of the easy button when it comes to politics. It's being able to run just sort of like Gavin. He's the opposite of Gavin Newsom, who's got the supermajorities on the Democrat side. Running states with supermajorities for your own party, that's easy. Okay. Yeah, it's like, hey, let's do this. Okay, done. You don't have to fight for stuff as much. There's always going to be a fight. As a matter of fact, DeSantis himself even had to have a fight with his own party, his own legislature over their debacle of immigration bill. And point I'm trying to make is that Andrew Bailey, I would love to duplicate him and put him in a bunch of other states. Okay, because he is very good state attorney general. I will read at least a part of it. Let's go ahead and read a little bit. I write, and this is he's writing, by the way, to Inspector General Michael Horowitz, who's over the Department of Justice, and you might remember him from the quote unquote investigations into Mueller and Russia and all that stuff. It was nothing burger. It was very disappointing, but whatever. So this is a letter to him. I write to request that you conduct a full investigation into President Biden's mental capacity in his final days in office. By now, Biden's mental decline is famous. Under the 25th Amendment, his inability to make decisions should have meant a succession. Sorry, it's small on the screen for me. A succession. I can't get it. Of power. Instead, it appears staffers and officers in the Biden administration may have exploited Biden's incapacity so they could issue orders without an accountable president of sound mind approving them. That would explain why the Biden administration's orders were aggressively much further to the left than any previous president. If in fact Biden staffers were exploiting the mental decline, those orders are null and void. So this could be big. I mean, if he's able to actually get this going, if Pam Bondi does her job, as she should, and is able to either assign an investigative unit to look into this, to determine who's writing what, call up the old staff, get the old band together and say, hey, come clean or you're going to be in trouble. Start doing some creative investigating. Not creative, that's the wrong way to put it. Some aggressive investigating. Let's get them to talk. Let's get them to spill the beans. Okay. And if we can't if she can't have the FBI do it, or if whatever, then let's get James O'Keefe to do it. I don't care. Get somebody to make the determination. Because if they can demonstrate that, then there is a case that can be made to rescind a lot of the things that Joe Biden did, including the pardons. Most executive orders, you can just the subsequent president can just sign an executive order undoing the previous executive order. But with things such as pardons, it's not like Trump can unpardon Anthony Fauci. That's not there. But this, on the other hand, could work. So you're saying there's a chance that I am. Let's go to, I don't do a whole lot of interviews, but I did one today, and I'm very happy with it. And it's on an important topic. So here we go. Let's talk crypto. Can the Trump administration make cryptocurrencies a real and full-blown currency here in the United States? I'll admit up front that prior to the election, prior to hearing Donald Trump speaking about his vision for cryptocurrencies, backing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies, talking about how they are the future. Prior to that, before the election, basically, I was extraordinarily skeptical of cryptocurrencies. I knew that there was potential value there, and I knew that in theory, the idea of decentralized digital currencies was far better than the alternative, which is centralized or central bank digital currencies, the digital dollar. And my concern, my biggest fear, was that there would be a big switcheroo at some point based upon the machinations of the globalist elite cabal and the uniparty swamp and their Democrat puppets. Had Kamala Harris won, I would have been immediately recommending that everybody abandon ship, get out. don't even think about trying to embrace Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any of the others with Kamala Harris in the White House. Praise God, she did not win, not just for the nation's sake, but also for cryptocurrency's sake. But even after President Trump had won, and even after he started really pushing the idea of cryptocurrency, I still had certain reservations. I was concerned that he would not appreciate the attacks that cryptocurrencies could represent, especially once they're tied in through blockchain, if they were ever allowed to be basically sort of conflated with central bank digital currencies. Once the government got involved, it's like, okay, now we're going to see the big switcheroo. But after he was in office, after he was inaugurated, I saw something that I did not expect to happen. He banned central bank digital currencies. He banned the potential for a digital dollar. Now, until that gets fully codified, until it is solidified as law here in the United States of America, I'm not going to fully believe it, but at least for now, man, I have become a lot more bullish about cryptocurrencies. I think there's a chance, a good chance, a great chance. But there are risks. Obviously, we are still talking about a burgeoning and volatile technology, really. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't even really look at it as purely just a currency, such as gold or fiat dollars or whatever. It is still very mysterious and very unattainable for a whole bunch of Americans. I have done far more research than I want to admit, trying to understand blockchain technology, trying to understand the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, how meme coins work, how funding of these coins actually takes place, contracts, all the various aspects of cryptocurrencies that still remain a mystery to, I would say, a majority, if not a vast majority of Americans. Those who know, they know. Those who get it, get it. But unfortunately, as of right now, that's not a huge chunk of the population. There are many people that are on Coinbase or whatever, and they're investing into cryptocurrencies, but they don't really fully understand them, and they don't understand oftentimes why they don't do very well with them. This is why, if President Trump is serious, and he seems to be serious, but if he is serious about, really becoming the cryptocurrency capital of the world, or I guess maintaining that, even though it is a strange position to be in when so few people in the United States are very fully aware of exactly what cryptocurrencies represent. But with that said, it's still more than in most other countries, apparently, because we still are tending to lead the way. Now that President Trump has made it an actual thing, he's brought in David Sachs, of course, both Lutnick and pretty much everybody in his administration. I haven't heard anybody speak poorly of central bank digital currencies. But the other way around is true as well. In other words, a lot of people that are involved in cryptocurrencies aren't speaking very much ill against President Trump or his administration. Unless, of course, you watch legacy media. And I was trying to do some research for this story earlier. And I was going through legacy media sites, seeing what they're saying, especially after Howard Lutnick talked today about how they were really going to advance cryptocurrencies here in the United States. Well, that prompted Bitcoin to jump up again. It keeps jumping up. Sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up. That's sort of the nature of the beast. But after that, I started seeing all these reports about how Trump's plan for cryptocurrencies won't work. Trump's plan for cryptocurrencies being lambasted by some random self-proclaimed crypto expert in Switzerland or whatever. I mean, it's like, guys, I get it. You hate him, but let's at least be honest about his plan. that we know, and we don't know a whole lot about it yet. We've only gotten bits and pieces, but we're going to learn more. Later this week, I interviewed my good friend Jonathan Rose, who is the CEO of Block Trust IRA. It's a company that for transparency, they are a sponsor. But I want to be clear about something that, usually when I do these sponsor interviews, it's like 5-10 minutes in, out. Okay, tell me about your product. Okay, great, thanks. This one, I had to cut it short. Not short. I had to chop it in half. And I'm going to play the second half of the interview now because, not because I didn't chop it because it's so long. I chopped it because there's so much valuable information about not just his company, but about the future of cryptocurrencies in general. So let's go ahead and play that. And yeah, when we get back, we'll go on with the show. But I I know I don't do a whole lot of interviews, so this is relatively new to me. But we'll give it a shot. So here's Jonathan Rose from earlier today. Now we've talked about before. You and I have talked ad nauseum about how gold and silver makes a lot of sense. It's safe. It's the hedge. It's the higher ground. But generally speaking, it's not like, oh my gosh, buy gold now so that I can take my retirement and double it or triple it or whatever over a short period of time. That's not the intention. The intention is to play it safe, to play it smart. But there are ways that people could take their retirement savings and get more aggressive, perhaps try to turn in some serious gains, perhaps try to turn it into some serious wealth. And this is where I believe your other company, Block Trust IRA, comes into play. Why don't you tell us what you're doing over there with Block Trust IRA?
Well, absolutely. Well, it's no secret by now that President Trump is at the forefront of the crypto revolution, essentially. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was even telling a lot of our retail investors that later on during the year, my guesstimate was maybe by September, President Trump would even announce that expect the US to adopt a US crypto reserve. And I was very wrong. It happened a lot quicker. And it actually happened on a Sunday when my phone started buzzing and you see the headlines. And a lot of people have asked me, is cryptocurrency a good investment? Now, I got involved in cryptocurrency back in 2015. And if you've never heard me talk before, just very quickly, I worked for Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, worked on the London Metal Exchange. I grew up in finance. So when I first heard about cryptocurrencies, like most people, I was very, very skeptical. And when I got involved in cryptocurrencies in 2015, I actually dabbled in it. I made money and I got out of it. Now, you may say, well, you got out of it. Why would you do that if you're making money? Because I had a hard time in believing the whole concept and it being mass adopted. Well, fast forward to today, obviously the cryptocurrency market hasn't gone anywhere. In fact, it's gone from strength to strength, and not just strength to strength, where they started passing bills on local state levels to add assets like Bitcoin to local state treasuries. Utah passed a bill, Arizona passed a bill. So we know under the Trump administration that crypto, as President Trump put it, America was going to become the US crypto capital of the world, and we are. And this is just so evident by the fact that he's already talking about creating a crypto reserve. What does that even mean? So it basically means that the US Treasury that hold many different assets, with gold actually being the number one asset on their balance sheet, they want to now adopt and add assets like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to this asset sheet. This is huge news. Why is it huge news? Because it means crypto is here to stay. And the crypto revolution, as I call it, is really experienced major momentum where people are still wanting to know, well, how do I even invest in cryptocurrency? How do I do this? So this is why we created Block Trust IRA, is so that people can invest safely and securely retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, even government TSP plans, and even let people who don't have IRAs, just cash savings in a bank making 0%, and they want to get in on this whole crypto action under President Trump. Now, Block Trust IRA doesn't just let people purchase cryptocurrencies safely and securely. Because the next question that I'm always asked is, well, isn't cryptocurrency volatile? Doesn't it have big price increases and then huge price drops? And I say, yes, absolutely. Cryptocurrency is very volatile. And that's kind of, not for the faint of hearted. So a lot of people haven't participated up until now because Block Trust IRA has actually partnered with a company called Animus Technologies. And Animus Technologies has AI tech. Now, this doesn't mean that artificial intelligence is just running your whole life and your investments for you. But the AI tech, what it does, it's so smart, it's so clever, is that it identifies the time you want to be buying in and liquidates you at what they feel is the top of that position and puts you back into cash. So when it feels that the market's going to drop, it keeps you out of that downward cycle and then buys back in when it feels like it's a good buying opportunity. So basically what our AI tech does is it gives signals and it helps people identify tops and bottoms and when to buy and when to sell. And it does it all automatically for you. Now, why is this important? This is kind of the golden rule here, why this is important. When you invest in stocks and you have a financial advisor, that financial advisor is trading these stocks probably around the bell, opening bell, closing bell, okay? And he goes home, he goes to sleep. Cryptocurrency, JD, does not sleep. It's traded 24/7, 365. And in fact, there's been many times in this market when we've been asleep, something's happened, Trump signed an executive order, you could have China invading Taiwan, who knows what's going to happen next, and the market is going to react pretty violently. Now, that violent reaction could be a good thing, it could be a negative action, but you want to have the ability to take advantage of these volatility swings, because in the past, when you buy cryptocurrency, there's only one strategy available, and that's a buy and hold strategy. And with a buy and hold strategy, you buy it, and when you go to sell it, hopefully it's worth more than when you bought it for. But wouldn't it be amazing if there was almost like a guardian angel watching over your investment so that when you sleep, it's helping you sell at the right time and buy back in at the right time? Well, that's exactly what this strategy does with Animus Technologies that's exclusively available through Block Trust IRA. And it's an award-winning strategy. This isn't something that's just been invented overnight. It has a 7-year track record. And the strategy was actually recognized by Bitcoin Magazine as the #1 Bitcoin trading strategy. And if you know nothing about cryptocurrency and you start doing your research, you'll find that there's one periodical, there's like one kind of place where you're going to go and get the best information out there, and that's Bitcoin Magazine. So for them to award this AI tech the #1 trading strategy is amazing. And the CEO, Max Pace, we have to have him on your show one day, JD, but the Max who runs this tech has only ever been working with hedge funds, institutional investors. So what we were able to do with our obviously background in retirement accounts, specifically in precious metals, is we were able to bring this tech to the retail investors. So we've provided them with a safe and secure platform through Block Trust IRA to invest in cryptocurrencies. And then we're providing them with a strategic tool that's going to monitor their account 24/7, 365, that has proven to beat the benchmark. And what does that mean, beat the benchmark? Well, if you would have had a traditional buy and hold strategy with Bitcoin since 2022 till today, it would be up roughly 425%. Obviously fantastic numbers, but had you have had the Animus strategies buy and hold, you would have been up over 625%, an extra 200% on top of the buy and hold strategy. Not that we're trying to be greedy, but really the whole point of this strategy is to mitigate downside risk. So when people get scared of the volatility, now the volatility is our friend. So again, if they have retirement accounts and they want to invest or learn more about cryptocurrencies, they can do so very safely and securely with Block Trust IRA, and they'll be able to access these technologies through Animus, this AI trading tool that will really help mitigate downside risk and beat the benchmark of these old-fashioned buy and hold strategies. And let me say something, JD, these buy and hold strategies, they don't work anymore. And a very good case study of this is just last week. Bitcoin has had a pretty great run, going into President Trump inauguration. But what comes up must come down. So our AI tech identified a market happening, which basically liquidated everyone's position at 1:38 in the morning. I was still sleeping. I hadn't even woken up, had an espresso yet. So the AI tech does its job. You have to manage cryptocurrency 24/7, 365. A broker can't do this. I used to be a trader, JD. Like I said, I worked for Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley. I've run small hedge funds. The AI tech that's out today, it would take like probably 100 of me to calculate something in a computing level and spit out a result. It does this instantly. And it's funny, I was speaking to Max, who runs Animus, and they have all these servers around the world, and they're using so much server space. They told me they had 2 servers identifying data, collecting data. They have 2 servers in Ireland, and they actually got a letter from the government of Ireland saying, "Hey, what are you guys doing? You're crunching more data than any other company in Ireland. What is it that you do?" And that's exactly what they do. They crunch data. They take millions of data points. It could be from social media, Twitter, what's happening in the economy, the federal rate interest, benchmarks around the world, instability, forecasts. It's taking everything, all this information, and it's spitting out signals. And then that is how they're able to make these high level decisions on when to purchase an asset like Bitcoin and sell it. And that's kind of their real secret sauce, is their AI technology. They are head and shoulders above many other funds out there trying to even replicate what they're doing. That's why they work with hedge funds, and we've been able to bring this tech to the masses through retail investments now, where people can invest in cryptocurrencies safely and securely and have it managed 24/7. And it really is groundbreaking and revolutionary, because there's nothing like it on the market. So I'm super excited, as you could probably tell by this, because there's nothing else there like that. And people are sick and tired of the old buy and hold strategy, because if you can have something manage your account, that's how you win. That's how you get ahead. The next 4 or 5 years, especially under Trump, what we're seeing right now is the biggest transfer in wealth in history that's happening in this space. And trust me, folks, you don't want to be left behind.
Wow. Very cool. So let me make sure I'm going to recap, because you said a lot of information there. And I'm going to recap the most important part only, because I think that just in case anybody missed it, it's AI driven, but it's still powered by people. People are still making decisions. It's just the data, the information is coming through artificial intelligence and helping to make these decisions at 1:38 in the morning on, say, February 24th, when Bitcoin is at 96,000. It says, hey, we're seeing signals that maybe there's going to be a big drop here soon. You should probably change your position to cash. And then the drop happens. It ends up dropping down to like 70 something thousand over a period of 4 days. Animus, through Blocktrust IRA, comes out and says, okay, now's the time to buy. So we sold at 96. We bought at 79. Everybody involved has made a lot of money. Is that a fair hypothetical assessment?
Yeah, now I feel silly, because you just said everything I said in 30 seconds. So yeah, absolutely, you're correct. That's, in the layman terms, that's exactly what it does.
Wow, that's amazing. And you said that it's award winning. You said it was a Bitcoin magazine.
Bitcoin magazine.
So Block Trust only works with Bitcoin. Is that correct, or is that not true?
So the managed accounts with these type of strategies, we work with Bitcoin and Ethereum for the managed accounts. But the platform itself, Block Trust IRA, you can buy up to 60 different cryptocurrencies on there. So besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, XRP is very popular. Solana is very popular. And we'll be applying these strategies to other coins down the road. But the market for Bitcoin and Ethereum, so big, it's the safest market to kind of play in the sandbox with, so to speak. But you can purchase over 60 different cryptocurrencies at Block Trust IRA, and again, either purchase them yourself or have Block Trust IRA help you with Animus Technologies strategies.
Gotcha. Now I've seen other similar similar plays like this, they usually have like either a 25,000 or a $50,000 minimum. Do you guys have a similar minimum?
So to get onto the platform, it's as little as $1,000. So they can, start there. If they want managed accounts, it's $25,000. And something I just mentioned, because since we, started this with Animus, what's been crazy, a couple of things. Our phones have not stopped ringing. And a lot of these calls aren't just coming from America. They're actually coming from London, UK, which is obviously where I'm originally from, not now. I'm speaking to me in Beverly Hills, California. We also get a lot of calls from the Netherlands, Canada, New
Not for
Zealand,
long.
and
Canada will
Australia.
stop
Not
calling
for
now.
long. Yeah. Well, you put that out there now, so probably yes. But
I'm
no,
just teasing.
no, we get a lot of calls, international calls. So this
Oh,
isn't just for
nice.
people in the US. It's not just for people with IRAs. It's for people globally who want access to cryptocurrencies safely and securely, and also want access to managed accounts.
Got you. Well, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but basically with the managed accounts, people can take their current retirement account, whether it's in an IRA, an old 401k, government accounts, whatever, and rather than sitting around and seeing if stock market's going to go up or down or whatever, they can hop into the cryptocurrency world, the burgeoning cryptocurrency boom that's happening as a result of President Trump not only endorsing cryptocurrencies, not only pushing for a cryptocurrency reserve for the United States of America, but also the biggest news for me, the thing that got me so interested was the thing that used to scare me before his election. Now it's becoming positive. Before I used to think that cryptocurrencies were eventually going to be replaced by central bank digital currencies. Well, he's
Mhm.
outlawed those. So we're good. So everything that I was concerned about before, because I was not very bullish on cryptocurrencies until President Trump came into office, now all of a sudden it's like, hey, everybody just send me a tip in Bitcoin. That'd be great. You don't have to send me one. Just one Bitcoin would be plenty. And I give them my Bitcoin address, and for some reason nobody sent me one yet, but we'll get there. Someday they will. But the point is that this allows people to essentially become or trade like a crypto expert without necessarily being a crypto expert. It's almost like hiring a crypto expert on your behalf. Is that a fair assessment?
It is. And also, I think the most important thing is to become financially independent. And that's why there's a big transfer of wealth coming on, because we've been trained, take your 6 to 11% returns annually, if they're even that, right? Not even keeping pace with inflation. We've been trained by these big banks. And in fact, people have even rolled over IRAs with us, even into crypto. Some of my IRA processors have been telling me they've been helping these clients liquidate these accounts, and they're being charged $35 for each of these positions in their IRA, and they've got over 85 of them. So we get nickeled and dimed, nickeled and dimed. Take it on the chin with these measly returns. These big banks put us into these loans and just burden us with debt. And really what we have right now is an opportunity to become financially independent under the Trump organization. And he's going to make that happen with the cryptocurrency market. So this is the next boom. If you're not getting involved in the cryptocurrency and you don't have exposure partially to cryptocurrency, in my opinion, you're going to get financially left behind. So, now is the time. Is it too late? Absolutely not. As long as the market remains positive for the crypto and the Trump organization, which it is, you want to have cryptocurrency in your portfolio. You want to be able to purchase it safely and securely, and you need someone, like I said, like a, so to speak, guardian angel to kind of watch this for you 24/7. And we've made this possible, and I'm very proud about it through Block Trust IRA.
That is amazing. And people can go check it out by going to jdrcrypto.com. That's jdrcrypto.com. That will get you connected with Jonathan and his team to help you get going in the crypto world. If you want to get into the gold world, as I mentioned before, genesisgoldgroup.com, 800-200-4653. Or if you want to go with crypto, that's, which to me, I mean, I've heard your pitch on both sides of this. And I know that if I were I don't know, 59, 60 years old, 70 years old, something like that, and I'm not happy with the status of my retirement account, perhaps I'm not thinking that it's big enough, I would probably be going to jdrcrypto.com and at least, very least, finding out what you can do to help make that much bigger. Gold is great for safety and security, but crypto, like you said, it's for financial independence. There have been many, 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 many people across the United States and across the globe who have gone from essentially very little to a whole lot through cryptocurrency. And I think, as you said, that the next big boom could be just around the corner. Jonathan Rose, Block Trust IRA and Genesis Gold Group, the CEO of both. Both have to do with retirement. Both have to do with making America great again and hopping on those coattails and letting President Trump bring us to the financial promised land. My friend, thank you so much. Any closing words before I let you go?
No, I appreciate you having me on. In fact, if they mention your URL, what for your audience, what actually specifically for the crypto, and what was your URL again? For
jdrcrypto.com.
if they come in through jdrcrypto.com, we're that confident that our strategies work, that we are actually offering up to $2,500 in free crypto bonus when they open an account. We're that confident these strategies work. They go to jdrcrypto.com. They'll automatically qualify when they come through that landing page to get a $2,500 funding bonus in crypto through our company.
Cheese and rice. What do I get? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. My audience loves me. They can have all of the bonuses. I just want to help make America stronger again. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for that very generous offer. jdrcrypto.com. Super excited about that. Take care, my friend.
Thank you.
He really is one of my favorite people to interview, just because of his voice. He's, and I've seen that a lot with British people. You know, they, even if they've been here, because Jonathan's been in the United States, he's been a citizen for over 2 decades, and yet his accent just hasn't changed a bit. He has not picked up. He said something to me. Zebra. He's talking about the crossing the zebra lines or something like that. It was talking about a crosswalk or something. I don't even know. It's like, it's raining here, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't understand what you're saying. That was an earlier conversation today. But he is a good friend on top of being the primary sponsor of the JD Rucker Show. So check it out, jdrcrypto.com. And like you said, just fill out a form. If you open an account, you get like up to a $2,500 crypto bonus. So good stuff there. I'm going to skip this story. I was going to cover this one. It's about a monetary reset, but I hadn't planned it out appropriately. So we're going to save this one for tomorrow. I don't want to start talking about more economy stuff, since we just went through 30 minutes of economy stuff. So let's move on to let's see. Will this be the last story? Let's make this the last story of the day. I've got a few others to cover, but we really are trying to do the show in the morning. I wasn't able to do one this morning because of there was complications, but we're trying to for sure every day. We want to do this show at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. Do the show every day, Monday through Friday at the very least, oftentimes on weekends. And that one I am committing to. We are trying to add a daytime show. We're trying different times, different lengths, all right, and see what resonates the best, because we want to improve and increase the reach of this show. We're committing to doing it as best we can, and that means consistency. So 9 p.m. for sure every day, 9 p.m. Pacific. And then we are going to add the daytime show, and I will figure out what the best time for that is over the next couple of weeks. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to give me a thumbs up or a like or whatever it is, depending on which platform you're viewing on. That's the best thing to do. So let's finish the show off with Anna Kasparian, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite radical leftists. And you might say, oh, well, why would you ever like a radical leftist? I don't. So when I say favorite, it's not like, oh, I ever agree with her, which I so very rarely do. But she is one of the very few honest ones. And as an honest radical leftist, she's willing to call out the massive hypocrisy and stupidity coming from the Democrat Party, especially, I mean, before the election, it was really bad. I didn't think it could get any worse. And then after the election, it got worse. I will be covering that more tomorrow because it appears that there's a new what is it? A strategy that they're now trying to employ. They've gone down the road of continuing to invoke J6. That doesn't work. People are done with that. People have been done with that for a long time. They've gone down the road of trying to make it all about the eggs. Egg prices, Trump. Egg prices, Trump. They're not buying that. People aren't buying it. So now they've come up with what may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. And that is, they're instructing their, and this comes, by the way, from an inside source within the Democrat Party. They're instructing their members, their politicians, and even many of the media personalities that aren't supposed to be, biased or anything, legacy media. They are instructing them all to stop acknowledging that the border crisis is getting better. You can't make this up. You really can't make this up. I didn't believe it until I started seeing examples of it live and in living color yesterday. So it's like, wow, the entire premise behind their strategy book, their playbook, depends upon the stupidity of their base. If their base would ever wake up and stop being dumb and stop being brainwashed and indoctrinated and suffering from Trump derangement syndrome and Musk derangement syndrome and Bannon derangement syndrome and Carlson derangement syndrome, if they would ever just, acknowledge the truth, then they probably wouldn't be Democrats anymore. All right, but let's finish the show off today with Anna Kasparian. Radical leftist Anna Kasparian demolishes the Democrats in their phony playbook. She really called them out for what they were doing. For those who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, but just in case you don't, yesterday, prior to President Trump's speech before Congress and before the world, they decided they were going to take 23 senators, and they were all going to read from the same basic script and go after President Trump, and they didn't have to stop to think about it. They didn't have to do anything. They just had to read the script, and this was going to go viral and somehow endear them to the nation, which it totally didn't work. Obviously, anybody on the right, even most people in the center, were very turned off by it. And quite a good chunk of Democrats and leftists were also turned off by it, including Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks. She took to her show, her podcast, I guess, and laid into them, and it was a beautiful thing.
Make It Make Sense, who says Democrats really think it makes them look good when 20 plus of them release the exact same attack video. Who told them this was a good idea? Can any of them think for themselves anymore? That is, look, I saw that video myself. It was pathetic. Every time I see what Democrats are up to, I die inside a little bit more. Like, it's just so, what it communicates to us is that they don't care, right? Like that they're not passionate about these issues, that they're not invested in fighting for what's right. That it's just about, let me do this video, let me put this message out there just to ensure that I'm going to get reelected, right? They're doing it for themselves. It's part of their own personal PR campaign. And that really bothers me. Because if someone gave me a script and told me, hey, read this, and you don't have to think about it, just read this because you're fighting for Social Security or you're fighting for some social safety net. I don't need a script. I have my own thoughts, my own views. I'm going to go ahead and say it like I feel it, say it like I know it, and not have to have someone hand me a script for it. But this is the thing, this is the problem with the Democrats right now. They're so out of touch with their own base. They're so out of touch. They have no idea what people are experiencing on the ground right now. They'll pay lip service to some of these issues, but do they really feel it? Are they really passionate about it? That's the real question.
Well, look, she is, to be clear, she is a leftist. But she's one of the very rare honest leftist. She will attack anybody. She will commend anybody. Okay, she's been known to say some nice things about people on the right. She's been known to say some pretty nasty things about people on the left. She is, I guess you could say, a true believer in her own ideology, and I can respect that. I disagree with her 95% of the time, maybe 99% of the time, but I can totally respect that she's honest. Okay, she tells the truth. She tells it how she feels. And that, even, whether she's right or wrong about her opinion, the fact that it is for sure her opinion, I greatly appreciate that. And that's why she is so offended by these Democrats that aren't thinking. And what she doesn't, well, I don't know if she doesn't understand this or not, but maybe it still needs to be said. Democrats suffer from a lack of fight. She was wondering if they have any fight, if they have any imagination anymore, if they really do feel anything, or if they're just going through the motions to try to get reelected. It is the latter, of course. They are just going through the motions, and this is a symptom that happens when you have it relatively easy. The easiest position ever to be in, okay, is to have control of one of the either the House or the Senate, but not both. Have control of one or the other, but also have your own party controlling the White House. When you're in that situation, you don't have to get anything done because you can just blame the opposition party, right? It's like, oh, well, we passed this bill and we sent it over, and the Senate, those darn Republicans wouldn't do anything there, or vice versa. We sent a bill over to the House, but Mike Johnson stalled it, and so we couldn't get it on Joe Biden's desk, and oh shucks, we'll just have to take control of the House again and have Kamala Harris as president. Like that position for 2 years, the final 2 years of the Biden administration, that position that they were in with Chuck Schumer and control of the Senate, that was like, it's easy. It's the easy button. You don't have to do anything, okay? You only have to go through the motions. You don't have to strategize. You don't have to do anything at all because you can't get anything done, right? The second easiest position to be in is to have control of the House, the Senate, or both, but have the opposition party in charge of the White House. We saw that, back in the days when Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, they were tough guys. Oh my gosh, they were able to repeal Obamacare like 55 times. 55 times they sent over, oftentimes clean Obamacare repeal bills. They worked hard. They put in the effort. They really just gutted Obamacare, and by golly, they put it on Obama's desk, and he vetoed it every time. And shucks, we thwarted again. I guess we're gonna have to win the White House. They didn't really want to win the White House because it changes their position, right? It makes it to where they actually have to get work done, and then they're exposed. It's like, okay, well, now we got Trump in the White House. This is back in 2017. We got Trump in the White House. Now just take any of those 55 Obamacare repeal bills, any of them, just pick one. One of the ones that you were able to pass and put it on Obama's desk, we'll just take it and put it on Trump's desk. And guess what? He'll sign it. And then it's like, oh, well, I don't. That's the second easiest position to be in. And it really exposes one of the fatal flaws of our system. And it's not a fatal flaw of the legislative system itself, okay? It's not the Constitution that's flawed. It's the two-party system that's flawed. And I'm going way into the weeds. Those are all discussions for another day. Let's talk about what she was saying. The point I was trying to get to, that I took way too long to get around to, is the fact that she's right. The Democrats, they have no identity. They have no power. They have nothing they can do. And because they've spent the last 2 years in the easy button position of being able to essentially do nothing, pretend to do stuff and just focus on re-election and focus on getting Kamala elected and whatever, trying to get Hakeem Jeffries in as Speaker of the House and all those things. When all that failed, and they were basically shell-shocked by the landslide victory of the 2024 election. I mean, they are now struggling. It's not just struggling to figure out what they can do because they really can't do anything. It's struggling to figure out who they really are. And they don't know. They don't. That's why 22 senators apparently listened to one senator when he said, hey, I got a script for you. All you got to do is read it and we'll take care of the rest. And they're like, That's it. Okay, that sounds good. I mean, they're lost. Now they won't be forever. At some point, they're going to come around and start trying to figure out who they are, what they want to do. But we should take advantage of it now. And I think the easiest way to do that is by getting legislation out there to dump a whole bunch of stuff. I'm talking about reconciliation. I'm talking about things that the Republican Party can do that's filibuster proof that can really make changes here in America, while the Democrats are basically, they're still recovering from the from the flashbang that was thrown into their chambers, the flashbang of the election. They're still all disoriented. Let's take advantage of it. Let's hit them with legislation that they can't block and put it on President Trump's desk, and let's move forward. That's my advice. Oh, and back to the original premise. Good job, Anna Kasparian, for pointing all of this out.